Hey guys, welcome back to our grow along where I show you what to do in the garden each week. Let's get planting. The soil is warm enough that it's time to plant melons. You probably don't think of cucumbers when you think of melons, but this melon tastes exactly like a cucumber, which is great news for those of us who live in really hot climates because typical cucumbers get very bitter under water or heat stress. Because these are melons, they keep up with the heat no problem, and they're super prolific. I really do mean prolific. I had so many I was selling them and giving them away to friends and family. Another benefit is because they have very small, tough vines. I've never had an issue with squash vine borer, even when the rest of my squash was completely decimated by the squash vine borer. I'm gonna highly recommend that you give this a try. I'm going to grow them up the other side of these small arches and let them take over this brassica bed as the heat comes in. For all melons, simply pull back the mulch, plant the seeds about a ½ inch deep, and cover with soil. With all direct sown crops, we're going to wait to mulch until the plants are a few inches high. Summer squash. I'm planting zucchini, crookneck, and Peter Pan squash. They all work the same way. Pull back the mulch, plant 3 seeds about 6 inches apart in a triangle and about a ½ inch deep. I'll be training these vertically as they develop. Last year I grew Yardlong green beans or noodle beans, which produced amazingly well all through our intense summer. Not bad. However, they were covered in black fly. This year I ordered a 5 variety mix from an untested Etsy seller in hopes of finding a variety that can handle the heat and has less pest issues. I'm growing all of them up this large trellis and they should cover it by the end of May. I'm planting all of them about 3/4 of an inch deep, covering them with soil. Once they're a few inches high, I'll mulch. Mulching them now could prevent them from being able to germinate. Tropicals! I am turning this little garden into my tropical paradise. There's already a banana, which I hope to be able to clean up in the next few weeks after the nights are consistently above 50. I'm planting some passion fruit and hyacinth beans to grow up this bamboo trellis and make a living wall. Passion vines are incredibly vigorous and can be a little bit invasive, so planting them in this little contained area is a good idea. Hyacinth beans are ornamental and bring all sorts of pollinators in. Both plants can take high heat and full Texas sun. The soil is warm enough now you can direct sow almost everything. The only thing I'm taking the trouble to sow in trays is things with really small seeds, things like this. So this is my King's Coral Celosia. It's also called a brain flower. There's a lot of different types of celosia, but I really like the ones that look like brains. I think it looks like coral as well. But look at how tiny these seeds are. These seeds are really small. If I direct sow them, I don't get very good germination. So I prefer the control. I'm just putting a couple. Now remember a rule of thumb, however big the seed is, 2 to 3 times the depth. If I put it on the end of a wet finger, it usually sticks well, and I can usually get better control. And then because they're really small seeds, I'm just gonna put a little sprinkle, and I just lost my packet. Just a little sprinkle on top. And then I will actually put these inside under the grow lights just because it makes it easier for me to have the right amount of moisture and everything else. These I saved from last year. You can see I didn't perfectly clean them, but that's okay. Now, wet the finger, pick up just a few, drop it in each tray. Alright, and then we're just going to do a scriggle. Just kind of rough up the surface. The wind is also why I'm going to put these inside. The wind will dry out the surface, and since these are so shallow that if I don't put them inside out of the wind in a protected area, I don't get a good germination. Press it back down. They should have been made in good contact with the soil now. All right. Now this one's a new one for me. It is called Vietnamese perilla. I've seen it in several Asian recipes. They call them sesame leaves. It's not from the sesame plant, but they apparently have a flavor similar to sesame. And since I love how sesame tastes, I ordered some. Then I'm just going to sprinkle. Make sure I get some in each cell. It's a bit more than I really should have, but I'm too lazy to pick them back up. A little skirtle scraggle. Done. Now this tray, I prepped it last night and we had a rainstorm last night, so this is pretty moist. I'm not going to bother watering it because I think it needs to drain. I actually think it's too wet. But that's it. Alright guys, we have planted a ton of things today. Next week on Monday we're looking at the total eclipse here in Waco, and we're expecting it to be rainy or cloudy conditions. So if you could please pray that we could have the sun that day so we can actually experience it, I'd really appreciate it. My parents are coming in from out of state for it, and I'd really like them to be able to see it and just enjoy it. Alright guys, appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you next week for next week's Grow Along. Bye! This week's garden chores. My parents are coming in for the eclipse, so that means using up all of the mulch so that they have a place to park. I do not recommend doing this in one day. We've had very strong winds, which broke one of my tomato plants, so just replant and water in well. Continue adding horizontal support for your English peas. I'm using twine. I am giving every single plant a slow release organic fertilizer. My veggies, my fruit, and the flowers. My citrus trees have survived but haven't been thriving. A citrus expert told me to fertilize them every single month using a slow release fertilizer. I'm using Citratone, and I am crossing my fingers that that does the trick.